Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to another episode of The Creative Exchange. Today I have my friend Dotan with me.
Hi,
Woo!
yeah.
So you are otherwise known as Piano Around the World, but it doesn't stop there. So tell people a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys. So my name is Dotan, and so for the last 7 years, I've been traveling around the world playing piano in public spaces, meeting people, going on adventures, and I like to say throwing myself into the wind and seeing where I land. Because I love that idea of letting myself go and seeing what I can discover, who I can meet, what I can learn in the process.
Piano Around the World isn't just tiny piano or tiny electric piano. You actually bring your massive real piano. Like, what do you call a real piano? Like a big wooden piano. How do I... Some people don't understand how insane it is to bring a massive piano to countries around the world. I mean, like, where have you been? What are some of the craziest places that you've played your massive wooden piano?
Well, so this is an upright piano. It's like there's
Upright piano.
different types of like uprights, and there's the smaller upright, there's a medium, and there's these large like 1,000-pound uprights. But then they have like obviously a grand piano and all that in different sizes. So I bring it's a console upright piano, and I've been anywhere from the jungles of Costa Rica to where else did I go? California to
Swiss
Alps.
Wow.
Well, that one I flew to Paris. I bought a piano in Paris for like €300. And then I did this whole trip through Europe, and then I sold it at the end and I gave like a piano to this guy.
That is so insane. So you just get a big trailer and you put it back there, and how...
Yeah.
Like the logistics of it. So when you're in the US, do you do the same thing? Like you put it in a big trailer, you drive around. So it's basically like a massive road trip wherever you go with an upright piano.
Yeah.
For some reason, my mind is just
exactly.
blown with the logistics of this.
Yeah,
Like,
honestly, it's been a huge headache. It's been a huge, actually, I should say backache is
right.
really what it's
totally.
been.
And then I just watched where you brought it in the New York subway.
Oh yeah, I was
How
like,
long did that take? Like the video was so good. It was like
so
a 2.5 minute video, just you bringing your upright piano to the subway, and it's like such a fun song, and people are smiling. But in the back of my head, I'm like, how long did it take him to bring a upright piano into the subway
I was
of
like
New York City?
super nervous about this. So I've always been. For me, this has been. In the end, I mean, I have to say, like, it's never really been about like, oh, I want to be the greatest piano player that ever lived. For me, it's like, oh, let me do this thing that I enjoy, see where it takes me, and like, how can I constantly raise the bar? How can I make this more interesting? Or, how can I make it more interesting? So I thought, oh, let's bring a piano on the subway. No one's done this before, and honestly, I don't think I would ever do it again because I was just like really nervous, and the piano is like this. It's a.
What did you put it on? How did it like stay still?
So that was like part of the journey, was me discovering how do I move this thing?
Right.
So in the first year, I had these 2 4-wheel dollies, which was such a headache, moving it around. And then I eventually found this special dolly made by this guy in Georgia called the All-Terrain Piano Dolly. And I called him up. I'm like, hey, can you sponsor me? Can you like hook me up with one? And I'll make some videos with it. I'll promote it. And it ended up
For other people who want to bring their pianos on the subway.
Well, now apparently there's a couple other guys playing piano on the streets, and they're
Wow.
using the same dolly. So I know that I sold a couple dollies.
There you go.
In the process.
Yeah, he got the money back. Oh, that is so crazy. When did you start that? Like, how long have you been doing that? Do you still do it? I mean, occasionally I see you out and about in New York with your piano.
Well, I started playing piano on the streets in 2010, so that's 8 years ago now. And then in 2011, I started traveling with the piano. But in between that, me figuring out how to move this thing, one of my pianos fell back when I was on the street, and it landed on my hand, and I literally broke these 2 fingers, like the tips of these 2 fingers, and you can kind of see.
Yeah.
It's a little crud. It kind of looks a little
Wow.
ugly. But That's me.
Oh my gosh, that must have been so painful.
It was the worst thing
Were you
experience
with
of my life.
anyone, or did you just have to leave your piano in the middle of the road and
It
go to the
was-
hospital?
I was literally in front of the Whole Foods, and they were like, they took me in, they brought ice, and they called the ambulance. Ambulance didn't show up, so I ended up walking to the hospital, like literally dropping a drop of blood every 10 feet.
The ambulance just didn't show up?
I guess, yeah. I mean, they just didn't show up, and which is weird. But yeah, so I lost. I couldn't play for like 3 months, but I think it was that experience that really like told me. I was 23 at the time, and after that happened to me, I was like, oh wow, if I don't do this, if I don't do this thing that I really want to do, this extraordinary thing with my life, I might never do it. And I think that was the thing that kind of like I was very emotional at that time, and I thought I wouldn't be able to play music anymore. And I wanted to do this thing because I was so miserable with my life, just working a crappy job for $12 an hour, working as a personal assistant. And I wanted to do something for me. I wanted to explore. And, at 23, you're 23.
Yeah.
You're in an amazing place, by the way.
Thank you.
I had nothing. I had like no idea what I wanted to do. I had no foundation. Well, I had a little bit of foundation.
Did you go to college? Did you was music always a thing that you knew you wanted to do?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Actually, it was more of like a hobby. I went to college. I studied theater. I was an actor for about 10 years. I studied theater. And I came out of college and became the typical actor, and I didn't like that. I didn't like needing a director or a theater company to actually
go through
be
so
creative.
many people. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I wanted to be able to create without needing to have collaborators, and I wanted to. How can an artist can sit down and paint a painting by himself and not need other people, or a musician can be by himself, but the actor has it hard because all he has is his headshot and resume, and he has to. He needs another actor and a director and a theater to actually like create something. So,
do you still do theater on the side?
I don't really do.
Can you do theater on the side?
I mean, I consider what I do as a blend of the theater because I play on the streets, and it's not just music. I love to interact, so I love to like ask questions. I tell jokes, and it's like really deep down inside of me, I really want to do stand-up comedy again. Or do stand-up comedy, period.
Oh, snap.
So I'm like, I'm trying to bring the theater back now.
And that I feel like is the most terrifying thing ever. Is stand-up.
That's why I want to do
like,
it though.
Yes, playing piano in front of strangers, that requires a certain level of just cojones, but stand-up? Oh my goodness.
All you have is this mic.
Whenever I've only gone to a stand-up show maybe twice in my life, but both times I was nervous for the people on the stage. I was like, oh, I hope they're funny because I'm going to feel really uncomfortable if not. Because I'm the type of person that I can be straight with people, but my laugh is very, how do I say it? It's not restrained. So even if someone, tells a terrible joke, I'll oh my gosh, Dotan, you're so funny.
Yeah.
Because I just hate that uncomfortable feeling.
Right, that's really funny.
But wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, I'm ready to see Dotan doing stand-up comedy. You should do that in your space.
I know, right? I could do that.
Yeah. We'll get back to that in a minute. But let's go back to the place of you being 23, injuring your hand, being in a place in your life that you were kind of miserable. I think people find themselves at like the whole quarter century crisis, or maybe they've gone to college, they don't know what they want to do. Maybe they spent 4 years of their life doing something they don't want to do, and they're like, life, I need to seize the day. So what was it like how? That's number one question is, you're working a $12 an hour job. Usually people's first reaction isn't, oh, let's go travel the world. Yeah. Because you see it as an obstacle, like money as an obstacle, So how did you just do it?
Yeah, I mean, money was definitely an obstacle. I had to, work at the job, save up some money. But really, I was at a point, I was working for this other guy. I was working for this artist, and I was delivering paintings for him. So I drive down from New York to Miami to deliver some paintings for Art Basel. And it was like a 3-day drive, and it was great. Like I was like, oh, I'm traveling and making money at the same time. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. I like this. But at the same time, I was working for this other guy, working towards his dreams. And I'm like, I'm 23. Like, why am I not working towards something that I want with my life? And that was actually the inspiration to it, is this guy in his van, because he used to travel and live out of the van. And I came up with this, like, well, I asked myself the question, if I could do anything in the world, what would I do? Or what would my ideal life be? And I came up with the idea of, like, I'm going to live out of a van. I'm going to travel the world. And somehow I have to make money. Somehow I'm going to, how am I going to fund this? And at the time I loved music. I loved piano. I was tinkering with the piano. I only had played piano for about 4 or 5 years.
Really?
And yeah, it really wasn't even that good.
In my brain, I'm like, oh, he's been playing piano since he was like 2.
No, honestly, this is what's funny about this. So in 2010 and 11, like I was playing like Fur-Elise on the street, like really crap. I wasn't even that good.
Oh my God.
But I just loved, I started doing it here in City Hall Park. Like I would wheel the piano.
That's motivation. Don't wait for perfect. If you're passionate about something, just go and do it. And it might lead you to a cool thing.
Right, exactly. And I started doing it on the streets, but I just loved how I was meeting people. I'm like, this is a great, incredible icebreaker, great way to meet people. And so I kept doing it because I enjoyed the experience. And that's how I came up with the idea, by combining this other job. But at the same time, like it was a lot of struggle because I really wasn't that good at piano. And then when I started doing the trip, I was like, oh, how cool would it be if I, started a YouTube channel? And I knew nothing about video. So not only was I learning piano, I had to learn like video and production. Like I would just set up a camera on the street, like on a tripod. I'm like, oh, I'm going to make some videos out of this. And I really had no idea what I was doing.
Wow. Have you always known Casey being around this area? Was he? No. So you didn't have like the 100,000 subscriber Casey like telling you how to make videos or anything? Because I feel like, 2012 is when I discovered him, Casey Neistat, and he had a little bit over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is crazy to think about. Because you're friends with him, right?
Yeah.
Just because you're in the area, I'm sure he's seen you.
I met him on the street. I actually 2014 was when I met him.
Okay.
And he was living, right next door over there.
Yeah.
On whatever 395.
Yeah.
Broadway, and I ran into him on the street when he had braces. So I'm like, oh shit, like you live right here. That's crazy. And I kept running into him. I kept talking to him. Like I was one of those like fanboys. Like, hey man, check out my YouTube channel. And I had like 20,000 subscribers at the time, or like 10,000, some crap like that. And I just kept running into him, and we kept talking, and eventually I guess he got used to seeing me, and I was like, and then he featured me in a couple of his videos. And
yeah, because the first time I ever met you, I didn't connect because multiple times you've been in his videos, and I, like, oh, cool, like that dude who plays the piano on the streets. And so like that was one person in my brain. And then I met like Dotan. I forgot where I met you. Do you remember when we met?
I forget too.
I have no idea, but it took me a few times of hanging out with you to realize that you were the person in Casey's videos. Oh, that's funny. The dude playing piano on the streets, which is so crazy. When you were in Europe, did you make money just off of tips? So you had like savings from your job and then tips? Yeah,
I had to save up for that, mainly because gas prices like just crushed me.
I didn't even think about gas prices.
Yeah, and then so I bought the piano. I had to like search around, buy a piano. It's about €300, and then I rented a van. I forget how much. That was like less than the cost of rent in New York. So I was like, all right, this is cool. I could do this without, it's be the cost of living in New York. And then I started traveling, and then it was like gas came. But I was still making money. I was doing gigs on the side. Yeah. It ended up being a loss, but not a loss in terms of finances, but I gained in terms of like, I made so many friends. And actually I have a good story because, at that time, it was 2014. Facebook had this tool called Graph Search. I don't know if you remember this. And you were literally able to go onto Facebook and type in pianists that live in Amsterdam. And you get a list of like 50 piano players. And I would just message all of them like, hey, I'm here. Let's jam. And I ended up meeting this one guy named Avishai, who was an incredible piano player. And he invited me over to his house for dinner. Ended up becoming like really good friends with him. Ended up staying at his house, and yeah, became best friends, and yeah, just through this graph search thing that we don't even have anymore. So that's one of the cool stories.
That's so cool. That's almost like making Facebook more of a LinkedIn, I feel like, because you could search people who do similar professions in your area. That's cool. Do you still use Facebook?
Not really.
Yeah. Like, do
on
you
my
use
page,
it personally, like to connect with friends, or do you use it to spread piano stuff around? Or I don't use it. I don't have one.
You don't have one? No
I don't
way.
have one. I don't have a personal one. So
Oh, I
I
see.
have like a SARA DIETSCHY page where I'll post stuff occasionally.
Yeah.
But it's like, okay, so I have 14,000 likes and it gets like 30 likes because Facebook doesn't show anything to anyone. It's a very discouraging platform.
Yeah.
But people still use it personally to connect with high school friends. I just don't care about high school friends.
Yeah. No,
You know?
funny.
I'm fine. I don't need to talk to any of you guys.
Right. Moving forward into the future.
Yes. Man, that's crazy.
It's funny that you're saying that, because I asked that question to people also, and no, I don't use Facebook as much as I feel like there's so many tools and things and only so much time. It's hard to manage all these things. It's actually one of my questions to you.
Oh,
which
how
is
the turntables.
flip it back on you. But the question of, like, you know, you have so many tools. How do you manage through all of them? How do you post and keep it updated and keep your fans updated?
That's why I have let go of certain things. I used to be really stressed out about, oh my gosh, this account is so good at Facebook. Okay, I need to re-strategize about Facebook. And I would stress out about that. And then I would stress out about, oh, if I want to be seen as this professional entrepreneur or something, that word is said so loosely nowadays, it kind of irks me. But at the same time, I'm like, oh, LinkedIn. I need to have a presence on LinkedIn.
Right.
And, you know, I saw these social medias because other people were doing good things with it. And I was like, I need to do it. But the moment I said, okay, I'm not good at those, I don't like those, so I'm not going to do those, is when I started succeeding more on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, like the platforms that I actually enjoy. Because, you know, I don't have to hire someone to post on Instagram and Twitter for me because I love it. It's fun. And so I always say I have kind of a disadvantage, especially when it comes to videos. It's because I love editing videos, so it doesn't seem like that much of a chore. You know, people who maybe their passion is piano or quilting or something, you know, they have to then go and learn how to edit videos, and there's that extra step. But yeah, I feel like you just have to just roll with what you like, start there. You know, and then if you have time or the resources to maybe pay someone to, you know, expand and do it. Yeah. But you also have to realize, I think, what you're trying to do. If I'm trying to sell an ebook, I should be on Facebook. Like, I should understand Facebook marketing. I should understand how to put, you know, little tracking things on links that people click to Facebook for and things.
Right.
And so I think it depends what your game is. My game is content, and usually my main stream of revenue is just brands and sponsorships and partnering with them. So if I was more product centric, I would probably be more focused on Facebook.
Interesting. No, that's good. That's actually really good advice for me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you recently made an album, right?
I did. I recently, this is funny. I did this whole thing for about 7 years and played piano, and I never released any music.
Wow.
Or, but I had one of these awesome. I love this thing.
The Zoom H6 recorder.
Well, actually, I had the H4. It was like before the H6 came out. Yeah. And I would just set it up everywhere. And I would, and I know this is probably kind of bad. But like, maybe not bad, but I would set it up, and like people would come, and I would have like really deep conversations. So I have this, not only do I have like incredible stack of like 30 terabytes of video, I have so many audio recordings of conversations that I had with like heroin addicts and drug addicts and just random people.
Dotan, why is that not a podcast?
I know. Well, so that's what I did. The album is kind of like it's a 25 track. It's kind of like a podcast. This is my first album.
Yes.
Don't really know what I'm doing.
Podcast music album.
Exactly. So there's I picked out like the 10 best conversations that I had with people. Like one guy that I met in Salt Lake City, who I was playing piano in my truck, my van in the back. Which, by the way, I had my first car that I ever bought. I bought it on eBay, and this is to travel around the world. Was a yellow Penske moving truck.
Wow!
And that's where I lived. I lived out of this yellow Penske moving truck, 12-foot box truck, and had my piano back there, and I had carpet. I set it up with carpeting. And, but anyway, going back to Salt Lake City, I met this guy who was raised Mormon, and he became a monk for about a year. And spent a year living, doing Kriya Yoga, but studying under this.
What is that? Kriya Yoga?
It's a form of like
a
meditative
spiritual yoga.
Yeah, but he studied under this 99-year-old guru, doing breath work and basically learning to control your mind with breath. And he told me the story of they brought in these scientists that hook up EKGs or whatever sensors. And this guy was literally able to stop his heart using 2 breaths, able to stop his heart from beating and come back to life as well. Could bring it back. I didn't really tell that story pretty well.
Oh my gosh.
So I had this thing recording. I had one of these H4s recording the whole conversation. And I put it in.
So maybe this is like an undelicate question to ask, but like, why would you want to like stop your heart and restart it?
Well, because this guy got to a point where he has the power to do this,
right? So it's more about control and like knowing your body. Okay.
Oh, the idea is that you get so deep of awareness and control in your mind that you can literally leave your body. Essentially, you can literally leave your body and come back.
Oh,
yeah,
man, yeah. I bet you have some crazy conversations, crazy stories. This is maybe too crazy of a question, but has anyone ever tried to like steal your piano? Would it be possible? Like, has anyone ever gotten mad? Maybe that's not the right question. Like,
no, that's a good question.
Mad that they're playing, like stopped by police or I don't know, because I feel like maybe some crazy homeless person would be like, "Oh, piano, that's worth money," and would try to like roll it away from you or something.
Well, so no one's really tried to steal the piano itself because because I know no one's gonna try to. Well, I don't know. But
it's heavy.
When I go to like pick up my car, like I park my car, then I bring the piano. But when I have to go get the piano back in the van, I leave the piano there. I close it up, I push it up against the wall, and I just go. And sometimes I'll leave for like an hour and I'll come back and the piano's still there. But I have had issues with, I've had a lot of issues with police. Like, oh, you can't play here. Somebody's complaining. You have to have a permit to play here. And then it's like, no, this is my First Amendment right. I have actually made a video about this.
Really?
I did it was a live stream on Periscope when I was playing it.
Periscope was a big thing with you, right?
Yeah, I loved Periscope because it's an amazing way to like interact. It's like you're FaceTiming with your audience. But I did some cool stuff in 2016 where I was like in the middle of the desert in New Mexico and I had service. So I'm like, I'm going to do a live stream in this desert where there's no one for miles, for like 60 miles. And I did a live stream for about 1,000 people. Wow. And at the end of the live stream, I was like, hey guys, I'm going to go to the next town and grab a burrito. So if you guys enjoyed this and you want to buy me lunch, there's a PayPal link below. And I ended up making like $300.
Wow.
Which ended up taking me like all the way back home with gas and all that. And so I had a lot of like cool experiments with Periscope, which are fun.
I feel like it's not a thing anymore, but I guess it is just because it's integrated with Twitter. But it makes me kind of sad that the actual standalone app isn't used anymore because it has so much potential. What do you think about live video? Do you think it's this thing that keeps trying to be but just fails every time? Because I think there's so many companies who are trying to make it cool. Yeah. And I think it does work really well in other apps. So people are Instagram living, people are going live on Twitter, but very rarely do you see people with standalone apps like YouNow or I feel like YouNow is kind of dead, or Periscope, the app. I mean, do you see potential in that? Do you think it's not the right time?
I love live video, and I've been experimenting with live video since 2015 or so. And the reason why I love it is because I think you build the strongest connection with your audience. Because again, it is like you're FaceTiming with your audience, and I love live video. I use a lot of I do a lot of YouTube lives. I still use Periscope here and there because I actually built a decent following on there. But actually, here's a good story. I was doing a live stream last year on the streets in New York, like I do every Saturday or Sunday when it's warm out. And I play piano on the streets. I interact with people, and there's this beautiful. I'm having these amazing interactions with people through all over the world on live stream, but I'm also interacting with people on the streets, and then they're interacting together. So there's this double layer of audience. But also, like last year, I was playing piano on the streets and doing a live stream, and this guy, I was talking like this, I'm just talking about my experiences, and one of the guys on YouTube Live goes, "Hey, you want to come do a TED Talk?" And now I'm doing a TED Talk in TEDx Talk in France because I was doing a live stream on the street.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that nuts?
He asked via Periscope?
via YouTube Live.
Oh my gosh. That is amazing. So are you going to play piano and talk or just do the talk?
I'm still figuring it out. But yeah, I'm going to play piano and
talk. Out of all the places. That is so cool. So they're flying you out there?
Yeah, they're flying me out there. And wow. Yeah, and they got that through live stream.
You just never know. I think.
Yeah, you never know who you're going to meet or like.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And
people have invited me over to their houses through YouTube Live. Like, hey, we're having a Halloween party. Come hang out with us. We love what you're doing. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
So cool. And so many times I feel like people need the instant payoff of how am I going to make money from this? I don't want to do this because I can't make at least $1,000 with this. And I think a lot of people miss out on the coolest experiences because they're looking for that short-term gain when in reality, you don't know what person you're going to meet on live stream. You don't know the 10 people that you're going to meet on the streets of New York that might change your life forever. And it sounds like you have so many like genuine interactions and friends that I'm sure started with you playing the piano, right?
Yeah, yeah. But actually most of my friends now are because I met them on the street and we connected. And I mean, you can go directly after like how much money this is making me. But I recently read a quote, network is your net worth, in that, you know, it's the relationships really that I've really become over the years understanding of how important relationships are in building a career or just building a life that you love and enjoy.
In cities like New York, I think it can be very intimidating, but at the same time, I think it's just unlimited, the amount of people that you can. Yeah, but I think some people might get intimidated by just the grandeur of the city, you know?
Yeah.
And maybe that's the reason that they don't go to that like networking event or something.
Yeah.
But I think if you're open to it and you start it, it snowballs so quickly.
Actually, that is my reason why I still play piano on the streets. Like, I'm not making a ton of money doing it, but I'm always like, who am I going to meet? You know, I got invited to this TED Talk. Where will I get invited to next? Because I'm playing piano on the streets, and I've been invited to a lot of interesting events and like Soho loft house parties, and I went to a dinner once because I was invited to this dinner once because I was playing piano on the street, and it ended up being a dinner with all these guys that work at Google and. There's a CEO of some magazine, I forget, media company, and just getting invited to places because I'm like, I do this cool thing that, you know.
So cool. That's so cool. Music question. I've played guitar for like 10 years now, which is crazy. It makes me sad that I don't play as much. But I was watching a video of you in like Amsterdam and a dude coming up and like improvising with you. It was super cool. You know, you were just like carrying the rhythm and he was like going ham on the other side. When it comes to piano, is improv the same in terms of on guitar, you know, you learn the pentatonic scale. So you know the 5 different positions on the guitar that you know all of these notes are going to sound good in a song that's in the key of, you know, A or whatever. So you have these notes to choose from. Is that similar on piano? If you just know your scales, you're like, oh, okay, this is what I can improv in. Because it was so good and everything sounded so good. So I was like, how?
Yeah, you basically, that's it. I mean, chords are essentially playing single notes. Well, chords are single notes. What am I trying to say?
Yeah, chords
are the building block of multiple
Yeah.
notes, and that you can play any of those notes, but then you can learn different scales that would sound good on top of that chord.
Right.
So that what you just said is actually
So
correct.
it's similar in piano. So because I've always wanted to learn piano, but at the same time I'm like, I should probably just get better at guitar, you know? But I feel like if you have the basic skill level on one instrument, you could transfer that knowledge kind of.
Yeah, you can.
Do you know how to sight read?
I can sight read. It's not my strength. I think my strength is definitely being able to flow. I guess the idea is, you know, you learn it. I tell people this when I do live streams, is that you have to think of it like learning a language. You know, you learn the letters, and then you learn how to put words together. And then once you know the words, you can then start learning how to build sentences together. And you can learn phrases from other people by listening to a song and then learning a phrase. It's exactly like learning a language. And if you think of it like that, it becomes, I think, easier. Instead of like looking at this thing that's very kind of archaic and, you know, like, oh, how do I figure this out? But it's actually, I think music is I think it's simpler than a lot of people might think.
This sounds like such a simple thing, and musicians listening out there, forgive me, but when I figured out there was only 12 notes in like music, I was like, excuse me? Like, what do you mean? Because, you know, music is so diverse and you can make so many different sounds and there's so much variation. And it was so weird to know that, I mean, of course you can put so many notes together and make different sounds. I'm like, what do you mean there's only like 12 notes? Or like 12, I don't know, that in the very beginning that was confusing to me.
Well, here's what's interesting. You look at the entire spectrum of like hertz. Basically the 12 notes is just a way of humans dividing up those hertz. Like there's, for example, there's instruments in Indian music that go between those 12 notes. Like let's say there's an A and an A flat. There are still notes in between the A and A flat. We just organized it this way as 12 notes.
Right.
In
So
the
maybe
Western
when you're
world.
like bending a string on a guitar or something, you're kind of reaching that note. But
Yeah.
that's interesting that there are actual instruments that will go there.
Yeah,
into
it's
the
really
unknown.
interesting.
That is crazy. Music is so cool.
It's really
It's fun.
it's like
Yeah.
magical. It's incredible. It speaks to humans on a deeper level. With without words, you can make someone cry.
Yeah.
Make someone feel something. It's actually that was the initial thing. The reason why I got into music is because I got into jazz. I was like a jazz head in college, and I would only listen to jazz for 5 years straight. But I love the way Miles Davis and Bill Evans and all these jazz cats in the song Blue and Green were able to, like, I was crying, but they weren't speaking any words, and I was feeling
Right.
something. Like, this is like magic. Like, I want to be able to recreate that.
That's so cool.
I think it's magical.
Yeah. Well, you were just showing me something on your phone because you said you're getting back into DJing.
Yeah.
Which is like sick.
DJ.
Because, you know, traditionally people think turntables are just like playing a Spotify playlist or something.
Right.
But so how do you DJ? What are you doing right now? Like, and who are you DJing for?
So I've just been in the last maybe 6 months, I've been exploring different sounds, like ambient sounds, like nature sounds. I've just been taking these sounds and textures and like the sounds of birds with the sound of water flowing, and then I'll play piano on top of it. And I've been doing these yoga and meditation events and literally DJing with these sounds and exploring to see
You're
basically
a
the
yoga
idea.
DJ,
Yeah.
which honestly is probably you probably find more work doing that than being like a classic DJ. Because especially in New York, I feel like everyone is doing yoga.
Yeah.
Everyone like yoga, Pilates, like,
Meditation.
meditation. Can we play some of those sounds
Yeah,
that you're
yeah.
playing for me earlier? And the one that stood out was just kind of the synth, you know.
It's really more powerful when you have it with headphones.
Yeah.
But if you
Oh,
have
they'll
it,
be able to hear it, hopefully.
when you have it in like a space, it's so crazy.
So we'll be like, okay, enter into the pyramid pose. Are you guys relaxed? We should do some.
Feeling it.
We should do some ASMR.
Oop.
So you'll take that and you'll play piano over
I'll play
it?
piano on top of this.
On top of it? So what kind of mood is your piano? I mean, like, what do you... I guess it is kind of just, like, I'm in a meadow. So kind of just, like, sprinkling in notes here and there?
Yeah, I'm really interested in the use of music as a function. So how do I use music to heighten relaxation? How do I use music to change my brain state, or how to change other people's brain states? And there's been, since the 50s and 60s, there's been a lot of studying on, I don't know if you heard of binaural beats, but the use of sound to relax or help with healing. So there's a lot of people in the 60s and 70s have been exploring this. I'm still a novice when it comes to all of this, but that's really why I got into this, is because I'm curious about how to use these things as a function. And I'm also interested now in lighting. How do I use this with lighting? And I'm interested in creating live experiences now. And that's kind of the evolution of what piano... It started with Piano Around the World, me performing on the streets and traveling the world. Now I'm kind of like staying put, but really exploring and developing a live experience through sound.
That's so cool. And not only is it just you and your piano and your sounds and all your stuff, but you now have a physical space in New York that it's relatively new, right? How long? You have a ground level commercial space that you rent out. Oh, is this still so... Dotan, tell me about your new spot.
So, well, about a year and a half ago, I saw this opportunity and I took it. And so basically I took over this, so I took over this, I want to change back to,
how do you segue from that?
I need to go back to, so
you can turn it off now.
Are we still doing this? I'm underwater. Honestly, there's another thing I'm so curious about, we're all so visual nowadays. I'm so curious about how do I tell, I want to put people in a dark room and I want to tell a story just through sound. Because the entire experience, the entire show is happening in their brains, in their imaginations. That's a kind of experience
cool.
that I want to. Just told you my secret.
Yeah,
that's the experience I want to create.
The Creative Exchange exclusive. You know what you're expecting from Dotan next.
Yeah, that's what I'm exploring. But so in terms of it's still going.
Yeah, it's like we don't even notice that.
But see now when I take it out, it's so powerful.
And now all of our listeners are asleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Time to wake up, everyone.
We're back, and we're back.
And we are back.
Brought to you by
SARA. Go check out my YouTube channel.
I wasn't sure what to say there. I was like...
But yeah, so you now have a commercial spot that you rent out to pop-up shops, events. Tell me a little bit about that. That's exciting.
Yeah,
that's cool.
It's very exciting. It's been incredible. It's like the second phase of learning, and I'm putting all these pieces that I've learned over the last 20 years of my life. I'm putting all these pieces together now in this space. And I kind of see it it's like my theater, because I rig lights, I do sound, I do all different kinds of interesting things with projection now. But I found this opportunity about a year and a half ago. I used to work with this marketing company, and they were the ones that built this space. But after two or 3 years, they decided to not renew their lease. But I kept bugging them, like, hey, let me do an event. Let me do like a networking thing, or let me do a yoga class. Let me do some kind of music event. And they were like, they kind of brushed me off. But then when it came to renew their lease, they were like, oh, we're not going to renew it, but you should take it over and see what you could do with it. So I was like, oh, I've never really run a space before. I've never done pop-ups. But I was like, sure, let's do it. I'm open to this new experience. And it's been 1.5 years now I've been running this space, and it's been a crazy experience. Just learning. I'm learning every day, and I love it. I love it, even though it's like a shit ton of work.
It's so much work, but you are renting it, and then you're renting it, for other people.
Yeah. I rent it to other
traditionally-
people. Yeah.
Because traditionally, don't you have to own in order to rent, or is just the landlord cool and he's like, I understand, I have a steady income of rent, so you can do whatever you want? Or is commercial real estate different? Because I know in New York, if you're renting an apartment, you cannot sublease. Like, you cannot Airbnb your place. So is it different with commercial real estate, where if you're renting, this one space for X amount of money, you can then go and rent it out to other people?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the lease, on the landlord and stuff like that. But
okay, so it's just person to person.
Yeah,
basically.
but also if I'm doing the production, or it's obviously if insurance, you have to have insurance and making sure we're straight under that. But other than that, yeah, I'm basically either subleasing it, or I'm doing the production for people now, which is
so you can kind of give them a package deal and say, hey, you have the space, but you also have lights and visuals and
and I'll set that up
compliments of
for you
me.
too.
Yeah, that's cool. Was there a learning curve in terms of renting out spaces to people, or do you know people who have experience with that? What was that like in the meeting? Because it sounds kind of intimidating.
A little bit, but honestly, that's what's crazy. What's happening now is that in the last four years or so, commercial real estate has been going downhill because no one wants to pay these huge leases for 10 years. No one needs to have like a long-term lease because everybody's selling on the internet. So now these companies, these big companies are just creating small experiences to get the consumer to experience it in real life, but only for like a week or a month. Or they're not renting these long leases for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Right.
So it's an interesting dynamic that's happening, that there's a lot of pop-up activity that's happening around the city now because there's so many empty spaces.
I've noticed that walking around in our neighborhood, really, in terms of Canal Street and Tribeca, Soho, Chinatown, it's insane to see how many first floor retail spaces are just like, call this number, blah, 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 real estate. There's so many open spaces for rent, I feel like. And do you think that is because no one wants to, like, these big real estate companies who are renting out, do you think they would be better of just taking it themselves and renting it out like a pop-up shop and like leasing it by the day instead of month? Of course, that's a lot of work.
It's more work. Yeah,
it's more
that's the
work.
thing.
But man, I mean, just some of these places on our street, just off Broadway, I feel like I've seen the same sign for like 6 months.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're probably losing money.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's certain ways with these landlords, the way they can deduct or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, you're right. It's crazy. There's vacancies all over the city. You look at Soho. I think it was like 45% or 50% vacant, which Soho is like the main, shopping hub of this area.
And it's hip and happening. I was listening to a podcast with Scott Galloway, who's a super intelligent person, but they were talking about retail and how in the United States that basically like retail compared to how many people we actually have in the States, it's like I don't remember the statistic, but basically we have way too much retail. Like, it doesn't even compare to any other place in the world. The brick and mortar presence in the US is just astronomical compared to the people. And do you think that's going to lead these huge commercial buildings in New York to shift to residential? Because I feel like we always need more space in New York for people. But then I guess that means, okay, well, we need more restaurants, we need more grocery stores. So that, I guess, could go along with it. But
yeah.
I'm very intrigued.
It's happening, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
do you see it happening?
You see all like, if you look around, there's all these developments all over, even right here, like one there, one there, one there.
I'm always looking
on the
up
corner,
now.
that huge, beautiful cast iron building the big tall. Oh, it's so beautiful. Like from the late 1800s.
Is it the white one?
Yeah,
that
the
you're talking
big,
about?
on the corner with the columns, and it's so beautiful.
Dude,
and
all I do
that's
now,
being developed
I
now.
just look up, just like for residential.
For residential, yeah, all these buildings now. There's tons of these cast iron buildings that are being developed into residential, and yeah, it's happening.
So you see all the development in Hudson Yards with all the massive buildings. You know,
nuts.
Hudson Yards is becoming its own little midtown. It's crazy because it's so close, but you know, you see all these massive buildings going up, and it's for businesses, but also residential. Do you think that these massive residential buildings are going to lower the price of these like dinky 5-floor walk-ups? Because when I first moved to New York, I was in a 5-floor walk-up right by Penn Station. Ew.
By Penn Station?
By Penn Station.
Nuts.
So it was literally 1 avenue away from Penn Station. 1 avenue, 1 block.
Oh, okay.
And so, you know, if you're not from New York, I think I talked about this in a recent podcast. Like, New Yorkers see the Penn Station area as, like, gross. And so I was paying a crazy amount of money for a tiny 1-bedroom apartment on the 5th floor, no elevator,
5th floor,
with mice. And then I moved maybe just a few blocks uptown, and it's more midtown area, but it's a doorman building. We have an elevator. It's nice, but it's only maybe like $500 more in rent. And so my mind was so blown by that I feel like as the bigger buildings come up, do you think these like 5-floor walk-ups that look pretty on the outside but have no amenities, like, do they have a shot? I feel like, is that just me wishing? You don't think it's going to lower?
No, because who wants to lower their price? No one's
I know, but who's going to live there if they can just pay a little bit more and live in like a freaking high-rise building?
But you got to think the neighborhood. People are living there because the neighborhood too. And the restaurant, the area, you know.
That's true.
Like,
That's true.
you live in the Lower East Side because you...
Because it's hip.
On the Lower East Side, you know?
Yeah. No, that's true. I just, in my brain, I'm like, why would anyone? I guess my first
agree
apartment,
with you. Like,
you know?
I'm living in this old building now on the 4th floor.
Yeah, no elevator.
I was thinking about the other day. I was thinking like yesterday. I was thinking like, oh man, I remember talking with SARA about this. That she was living in this old, and now I'm living in the old thing with the heating. The heater.
But is it cool?
I like the neighborhood.
Yeah, you like the neighborhood. See, with living in New York, it's you push and pull. You know, you give up some things for a cool neighborhood.
You have to sacrifice a little bit.
Yeah. The heater.
Oh, this heater, yeah. It's got this little thing that it blows out air, the hot air, like shh. And I'm like sleeping, and it's just like shh.
And it turns on and off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they'll surprise you like
exactly.
shh. I'm like, oh man.
So when I had that old school system, you know, in my first apartment, it would wake me up almost every single night because it's not like it's constant and then it's just white noise. It's so startling because it'll be quiet and it'll just be like, shh.
Yeah, exactly.
And mine was broken, but they never figured out how to fix it. So it was like double as loud.
Oh. So now I'm covering it with a towel and it's lowering the sound of the...
Does that not...
But I'm scared. I'm like, am I going to start a fire?
Yeah.
I'm like...
I hope your landlord isn't listening to the creative exchange.
Right.
But that's cool. Lower East Side has a good culture. You're by everyone. Sam lives there. Brandon lives there. A lot of people live on the Lower East Side. I think Brett lives over there.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, they're more in like the East Village, I think.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit more south.
How long have you lived in New York?
I was born here.
Ooh, so you're born and bred.
Born and bred, and then raised mostly in Long Island as well.
Cool.
So moved out to Long Island when I was like 7.
Cool. What are the different areas that you've lived in New York? When you've been a working human adult, have you always been in Manhattan, or did you go over to Brooklyn, Queens?
I went to Brooklyn last year. Okay. Which is cool. I just if I'm working in Manhattan, I'm really trying to eliminate my travel time. Mm-hmm. I think I learned that from Casey. I think he used to live right there. And, but yeah, I'd rather live close to work so I don't have to sit an hour every day on a subway. And that's pretty much what I do now. It's literally 5 minutes bike ride to work.
That's so nice.
So, yeah, it's much better.
That's so nice.
But I've lived all over. I lived Upper East, Brooklyn. So here's a funny story. I used to live out of my van, and around 2016, I was still living in my van in New York City. and I would sleep in like Tribeca, like the richest zip code, in my van. And I know this is kind of a weird thing, but I did it because I was like, oh, I want to see what this is like. Like, I'm not going to pay rent. And so I haven't made this video, but I've wanted to make this video for a long time of like how to live in New York City rent free.
How to
And, like,
live in Tribeca,
Tribeca, the richest zip code.
The richest zip code. Man,
And like
so
sleeping on the streets. And there was one night where I was like sleeping in the van. I think someone saw me or complained. And all of a sudden, like a cop, I see him from like far away, creeps up, and he has one of those lights. And I'm in the back. So I literally covered underneath the covers, and he's shining this. I have like tints on my van.
yeah.
He's shining this light to see like who's in there. And I was like, my heart's like beating. I can't believe I'm telling you this story. This is so bad.
Gosh.
So yeah, I've had some really weird like.
So what happened? Did he just leave? Did you move your van after that?
No, I just stayed there. He didn't see me. He didn't see me. I was
So
like,
he just
hidden.
thought it was like an abandoned car. You better watch out. Like you could have gotten towed while you were like
No,
sleeping.
I was parked good. I was
Okay.
parked fine. I mean, I've had other experiences where like, I'd still hear like people walking, or there were
Right.
nights where it was like really cold, and I'm like, oh, why am I doing this to myself?
Right.
Just to kind of like avoid paying rent, being like kind of like a dirty musician or whatever, traveling musician. This
Yeah.
idea,
It's what's shown in movies. It's
Yeah.
where you get the good stories, and when you're in your 20s, why not?
Exactly. That's
Especially when
it's
you're
a learning
in-
experience too.
Yeah.
I'd rather be faced with like serious challenges
Yeah.
and fail than not do it at all. Like you're always gonna learn something if you, now I'm sounding like these one-liner. But it's true.
That's good though, because often you learn more, I would argue, when you fail, right? I mean, there's a lot of, and if you have the right attitude, they don't even seem like failures. Because
Right.
I truly have failed so many times, just whether it was like basketball or music. But in my brain, they don't really seem like failures because they're what led me to what I do now. And I love what I do now. And so, yeah. When
Always
you're
raising the bar. Always like, what's the next? Let's go on the subway with the piano. Yeah.
So what's the next, Dotan? What's your next bar that you're gonna raise?
Next bar. Really, I think it's this.
Gonna buy a building?
Yeah, right. That would be me. One day, maybe. In multiple spaces.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I mean, now I'm just, I'm continuing. I'm still working. I'm doing like pop-ups or whatever. I want to develop live experiences. I want to really spend more time developing that, and maybe like a live music show. I also want to. I had this idea recently. I was talking to John about this, about doing pop-ups for influencers, for creators. Like let's create a pop-up experience and
Totally.
invite everybody.
Like merch in real life.
Yeah, merch, but also like, what if we had exclusive content that's only available in a live setting?
That'd be cool.
It's an interesting idea.
That's an interesting idea.
Yeah, I'm
We should
just
do
playing with
it.
ideas.
Yeah.
Like,
I was thinking about something the other day in terms of normal people. They have bars to go to, go grab a beer with your buds and like bro out and get lit, like do whatever the cool kids are doing. And that's a central hub for people like that. It's a space that you can just go to really any time of the day and like hang out with people. I'm like, what is that space? Like, is that a co-work? Is that a WeWork for us? Or I feel like there should be like a bar that serves like sparkling water with cool, I don't know, just where the culture is less getting drunk and like screaming at each other.
Yeah.
But more, what's a central place where people are open to having a conversation and just being creative?
Yeah,
That's
I'm all about
something
that.
I'm interested in. Like how can you create a bar scene but for creators and business people?
right, and it's not just about. I mean, to be honest, I'm bored with bars. I think it's so boring. I'm interested in creating an experience or creating an environment that people are or can be creative, but also like there's something interesting and something that challenges you. Maybe I don't know if you know this, I don't know if you experience that, but I think bars are, you just stand around and talk and nothing really exciting happens. It's just doing this over and over again. It's kind of boring.
Exactly. And I guess coffee shops can kind of be like that, but they're not as social. Because with
social,
bars, you
right.
have that social aspect. You go, you hang out with friends, maybe you talk to a stranger. Coffee shop, it's almost like I have my laptop, I'm doing work, don't bother me.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we create that
In between.
bar scene with coffee and sparkling water and being creative? So solve that problem.
Maybe
Dotan.
we should do this.
Work
Let's
on
create
it,
something.
you know? Because I think that would be so cool. Maybe it's just the idea of a more social coffee shop. I don't know.
Yeah.
But different aspects to go and film or do something. I don't know.
Right. How do we create this environment that people can still be social, where creatives I guess it doesn't have to be creatives, but
Because I think everyone can be creative.
I think so too. Yeah.
You know?
As people don't exercise, I think of it as like a muscle that a lot of people don't exercise.
Yeah. All right. I feel like there's so many.
We keep going to so many
I
avenues.
know.
We have all these little holes,
Just
like
these little things,
avenues, that
you
we
know?
can
And I think co-working spaces are doing a good job of trying to bridge that. I think that,
Yeah.
but that requires, that monthly membership. It's, yes,
to
it's
keep it
filling
sustainable
me.
though. Like the alcohol's there because that's what's paying
true.
the bills. you
No,
know?
that's true. So, and I guess that's why our coffee is $5.
Yeah, right.
Because they
the
got to
rent
pay
raise.
the New York rent somehow,
That's true.
I mean, okay, so there's a lot of problems to solve. If we don't solve them, you guys should solve them. We
guys.
just gave you some good ideas, guys. Dotan, thank you so much for
Thank
being
you.
on the podcast. Let's end it with one just advice.
Namaste. You went like this. I was like, oh, we're gonna end this one with a namaste.
Yes. Let's turn on the track and do a 5-minute meditation.
We're gonna bring the birds in.
Exactly. No, but for the people out there who want to make that leap into maybe doing something crazy, traveling to Europe and playing music, traveling to Europe and making a video series, maybe it's something with real estate. They want to dip their toes in the water. Give some advice in terms of like, how did you make that leap? How do you make that leap?
Honestly, the way I look back now and I see it, I've been seeing this as like I'm taking the cards that life is dealing me and I'm playing the cards that I have and seeing where that leads. And sometimes a card might not work, and I'll have to try another card and see what relationships that brings. Or I mean, for me, it's constantly been an openness. It's been very difficult to trust, but I think when you trust and you really believe and you're exploring, and it's a mixture of trust and action. And if you could put the two together, you can really discover and explore and find a way to make it work. I think
That's good. But you got to play those cards in order to figure out if they're going to work or not.
Yeah.
So play those cards, guys.
Play the cards.
Yep. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Dotan. Where can people find you? What are all of your handles?
Check me out. It's Piano Around on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Hit me up. Send me a message. I'm down to chat. I do this thing on Instagram. I'm like, hey, DM me. And I'll get like 50 DMs. I'm like, hey, guys. And I just start chatting with people. And like people have questions. And I love connecting. I love connecting with you guys. It's fun.
Hit up Dotan, guys. Thank you so much for being on the show. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can also listen on Apple Podcasts, on Google, Stitcher, anywhere where you listen to podcasts. If you're listening, you can see us in the physical, see what we look like at youtube.com/thecreativeexchange. But the point is, wherever you are, hopefully you can listen or experience the creative exchange in some way. So until next time, guys, keep creating, and we're gonna outro with some crickets. Let's just all do a collective meditation for a few seconds, and we are gonna go kill it and be creative. Here we go.
Oh yes, love it.